Why do we feel that something is missing, even when we have everything? Why does happiness, so often promised, always seem to slip through our fingers? And is it possible to truly love someone who doesn't know how to be happy?
All willing arises from lack, from suffering, and ceases with its satisfaction. Arthur Schopenhauer. These words are not just philosophical provocation, they are mirrors. How many times have you witnessed a woman who is beautiful, intelligent, loved, and yet still unhappy? How many times have you tried to please, tried to understand, tried to be everything, and still found yourself facing empty eyes, endless demands, and accusatory silences? This video is not a critique, it's a whisper, an attempt to understand one of the most complex enigmas of the human soul, the feminine void. You might disagree, get irritated, or feel moved, but one thing is certain. After hearing this, you will never see feminine suffering the same way again. Have you noticed how, nowadays, it seems like all women are always on the verge of collapse? It's as if dissatisfaction were the constant background music of their lives. No matter how much they have achieved, how much they've been given, there's still something wrong, something missing. And before you think this is just the rant of a tired man, allow me to propose a disturbing hypothesis. What if female unhappiness is less of a flaw and more of an unconscious program? An ancient script inscribed in the depths of the collective unconscious that turns pleasure into boredom, love into charge, care into control. Schopenhauer, with his habitual harshness, did not see in woman the source of romantic beauty, but a being subjected to the irrational forces of the will. According to him, woman is more closely tied to nature and therefore more vulnerable to its impulses. But that does not make her inferior. It makes her more bound to the eternal cycle of desire. The modern woman lives under the spell of a promise. You can have it all. Love, career, freedom, recognition, passion, children, peace, all at once. But this promise is a trap, because when you believe you can have everything, what you do have is never enough. And then the first poison appears: comparison. She looks at Instagram and sees an influencer with a sculpted body, a wealthy husband, and an apparently perfect life. And in that instant, everything she has feels small, old, dull. It doesn't matter how hard you try. If you're not on the same level as someone else's filter, she will feel like she's losing. And the worst part? She herself doesn't understand the source of her emptiness. She cries in the bathroom after a trivial argument. She feels guilty for not being happy with a man who loves her. She says she's fine, but the silence screams. It's what I call sorrow without a visible cause, a sadness that has no name or shape, yet weighs on the shoulders and corrodes relationships. And here is the most painful point. Many men desperately try to cure this sadness. They buy flowers, plan trips, work more, become distorted versions of themselves, trying to save someone who does not want or does not know how to be saved. But this isn't her fault. She grew up in a world that taught her happiness comes from the outside, from the right man, the dream job, the ideal body. Only desire, as Schopenhauer himself would say, is insatiable, and the woman who places her happiness in the world's hands is destined to be disappointed. What if unhappiness is not an accident? What if it is the inevitable result of a belief system built since childhood? Let's look more closely at that origin, because understanding is not the same as justifying, but it is the first step in breaking the cycle. There is a kind of pain that doesn't bleed, yet shapes everything, a trauma that doesn't scream, but echoes through every choice, every reaction, every relationship, and that trauma often wears the face of a father or a mother. You know that woman who seems strong, determined, independent, the one who says she doesn't need anyone, that she'd rather be alone than disappointed. Very often behind that strength hides a wounded girl, a child who learned too early that love disappoints, that men leave, that being vulnerable is dangerous. Childhood, that place where everything seems eternal, is also the stage where our deepest beliefs about love, safety, and self-worth are carved. And for many women, that stage was an emotional battlefield. Schopenhauer believed that suffering is the essence of existence, but few realize how deeply that suffering seeps into our most intimate relationships, especially when it comes to the feminine. He once said, "Pain is stronger than pleasure, and that's why the world contains more suffering than joy." And if we apply this to the female psyche, we can understand why so many women seem to carry an ancient sadness, one without a name, yet with deep roots. Think about it. How many grew up with mothers who were perpetually dissatisfied? Women who complained about their husbands, their jobs, their lives, their reflections in the mirror, who never smiled with ease. These mothers unknowingly taught that life is struggle, that men are burdens, that marriage is a cage. And their daughters? They absorbed it all as a silent truth. They didn't just inherit their mother's facial features. They inherited their emotional ghosts. Others grew up with absent fathers, or worse, not present, but emotionally dead. Fathers who didn't listen, didn't validate, didn't embrace. Girls who learned that to be seen they had to try harder, please, perform. And as adults, these same women enter relationships trying to fix what they couldn't when they were children. They want to be chosen, loved unconditionally, valued, the way they should have been, from birth. But no adult relationship can fill a void left by childhood. It's like trying to fill a bottomless well. The partner gives love and she responds with doubt. He opens his heart and she distances herself, because deep down she doesn't believe she deserves it. Or worse, she believes that every love, sooner or later, ends in abandonment. The pain of childhood isn't just a memory, it's a filter. It distorts reality, poisons the present, repeats old patterns. And the cruelest part is that most women are unaware of it. They think they're reacting to the present, but they're only reliving the past. Have you ever seen someone sabotage a relationship that seemed perfect? She says she wants stability but creates chaos. Says she wants affection but rejects love. Says she wants peace but starts conflicts. That's trauma speaking. It's the body trying to protect itself from a pain it already knows. Because to the unconscious, what's familiar, even if painful, feels safer than the unknown. And here lies the tragic paradox. Many women live trapped in versions of their mothers, even after swearing they'd do everything differently. They complain the same way, love the same way, destroy the same way. Because what's familiar feels comfortable, even if it costs them happiness. It takes courage to look within and ask, what in me belongs to the past and what am I projecting into the present? Is this anger from today or from when I was 7 and ignored? Is this fear of abandonment real or just the shadow of my father walking away? Most never ask these questions. They go on blaming their partner, life, fate. But the truth is harsher. Until they heal the wounded child that lives within, no relationship will ever be enough. No one can offer enough love to erase a history of abandonment. And you, man who tries to understand, who feels lost before inexplicable reactions, know this. Many times you're not dealing with a woman. You're dealing with a frightened little girl disguised as an adult. And that girl, before she can love anyone, must first learn to forgive herself. There is a silent image that lives in the heart of many women, a kind of sacred projection of ideal love. It starts early, in childhood, when stories of princesses and happy endings are repeated like mantras. It grows through movies, novels, and the rose-tinted filters of social media. And eventually it becomes an expectation. Love must be magical, or it's not worth it. But reality, as you know, isn't made of soundtracks or edited scenes. It's made of rainy Mondays, dirty dishes in the sink, bills to pay, uncomfortable silences, and human imperfections. And when this woman, fed for years on idealizations, faces the reality of love, she feels betrayed. Not by you, but by what she was promised all along. Schopenhauer once said that marriage is the end of illusion and the beginning of reality. He wasn't romantic, but perhaps he was simply too lucid to believe in the golden wrappings that sell love as the solution to all emptiness. The problem isn't love itself, it's the magical expectation built around it. She wanted a man who was strong yet sensitive, a provider yet present, ambitious yet easygoing, decisive yet always willing to listen, dominant yet gentle, and of course passionately in love every single day without fail, a human god. But deep down, no human being can play that role without falling apart. When you try, you disappear. You lose your essence. You become an actor on an unstable stage where the demand changes with every scene, and even then it's never enough, because the fantasy of perfect love doesn't accept imperfections. It can't tolerate boredom, discomfort, or repetition. It can't stand that you have bad days, forget things, or say the wrong words. Romantic idealism turns real love into something unsatisfying, and it's not her fault. It's the script printed into her since childhood. You ask yourself, but why can't she simply appreciate what we have? Why does she seem more focused on what's missing than on what exists? The answer lies in the logic of the ideal. The ideal isn't meant to be lived, it's meant to be desired, and the more she chases it, the farther it slips away. The relationship then enters a toxic cycle. She idealizes, you fail, she gets frustrated, you try harder, she grows tired. She says she wants intensity, but constant intensity is instability. She wants eternal romance. But eternal romance is a performance, not real coexistence. She wants to be loved like in fairy tales, but doesn't want to deal with the backstage of real life. And when Prince Charming starts showing his humanity, she believes he deceived her, that the man she met changed. But the truth is, he simply stopped acting. Worse yet, she believes that somewhere out there must exist a man capable of keeping her in a permanent state of euphoria. And she starts to compare. Yeah, this one travels more. That one is more romantic. Another is more attentive. What she doesn't see or refuses to see is that every comparison is based on fragments. No one posts the fights, the tears, the silences. She compares her backstage to someone else's stage, and she always loses. This is where the most dangerous poison is born, silent resentment. She begins to see you as the man who prevents her from living her ideal love. You become the symbol of her frustration. And no matter how hard you try, nothing seems enough, because it isn't, because what she wants doesn't exist. Schopenhauer said that the human will is an inexhaustible source of suffering, precisely because it's never satisfied. For women trapped in the fantasy of perfect love, that will become an addiction to emotion, to novelty, to drama, to the ideal. And when the relationship enters the territory of the real, she grows bored, and she mistakes boredom for lack of love. How many times have you heard this? I don't know how I feel anymore, and I've lost the passion. You've changed, but maybe what changed was only the scenery. The sparkle faded, and real life took its place. And she was never taught how to love in real life, only in fairy tales, in movies, in promises. The fantasy of perfect love is like a distorted mirror. As long as she looks at you through it, she will always see less than what truly is. And until she breaks that mirror, until she accepts the imperfect beauty of real love, she will keep searching for what never existed and despising what she already has. There are things we'd rather not know, truths that make us uncomfortable, that hurt, that dismantle the foundations of what we believe about love, relationships, and ourselves. But if you've made it this far, maybe you're ready to face them. The truth is that many women are emotionally programmed for unhappiness, not out of malice, not by choice, but through an insidious combination of biology, culture, and psychological conditioning. It's a cycle, and like every cycle, it can only be broken through awareness and pain. Schopenhauer said that suffering is the natural condition of being, but for so many women, that suffering has become an identity. They've become addicted to the role of the victim. They've learned that complaining brings attention, that presenting themselves as wounded grants power, that drama is more rewarding than peace, and when unhappiness becomes familiar, happiness feels threatening. It seems fragile, fleeting, strange. Chaos, on the other hand, feels like home. It's predictable. It's comfortable, even if it destroys everything around. Many men live this confusion daily. They try in every possible way to please, to fix, to sustain, but the woman before them doesn't want to be happy. She wants to be right. Right that he's the problem. Right that nothing is ever enough. Right that she always deserved more. And maybe that's where you are now, walking on eggshells, measuring your words, putting out fires you didn't start, apologizing for existing, suffocating in a relationship where your peace must be sacrificed to maintain her happiness. But here's the truth almost no one wants to hear. You will never make an unhappy woman happy. No matter how much you give, no matter how much you change, if she doesn't do the inner work, if she doesn't face her ghosts, if she doesn't break her addiction to dissatisfaction, you'll be nothing more than another chapter in the story of frustration she rewrites with every partner. And that hurts, because you love her, because you saw a light in her. But maybe that light was only the reflection of what you wanted to see, not the real essence of who she is or who she's willing to become. There's something no one tells you about this kind of woman. The more you try to save her, the more she despises you. She doesn't want to be saved. She wants you to fail, because your failure confirms the story she's carried since childhood, that men disappoint, that love hurts, that no one is ever enough. And if, by some miracle, you don't fail, she'll create a reason. She'll provoke, test, and sabotage. because the problem was never you, it's the internal script she can't let go of. She might say she wants a healthy relationship, but in practice she seeks intensity, validation, and control. She doesn't want partnership, she wants a stage, she craves drama, conflict, redemption, and you, wanting to be the hero, end up becoming the villain in the play she's performing. And you know what's most tragic? She suffers too, she's exhausted too. She also wishes she could rest emotionally in someone's arms, but she doesn't know how, because she's never seen it happen, because she was taught to fight, not to trust, to demand, not to embrace, to dominate, not to surrender. Maybe deep down she's afraid to love and be abandoned, afraid to let her guard down and get hurt, afraid that if she's happy, the ground will disappear beneath her feet. And so she prefers to keep everything in a state of tension, because deep inside she believes happiness is always the prelude to tragedy. And now comes the hardest part. You have to choose. Either you stay in this cycle trying to be the cure for a wound that isn't yours, or you accept that it's not your job to heal what you didn't cause. Loving someone deeply doesn't mean you must destroy yourself for them. You can be empathetic, you can be patient, but you also have the right and the duty to protect yourself, to say, I love you, but I can't be your battlefield, to choose peace even if she doesn't understand, to save yourself when the other person doesn't want to be saved. The truth almost no one wants to hear is this: there's no force in the world capable of healing someone who insists on staying wounded, and sometimes the greatest act of love is leaving. Truth, when stripped of filters and fantasies, is uncomfortable. It doesn't knock before entering. It breaks down doors, but it also sets you free. Today, maybe you can see that woman with different eyes, the one who always seemed upset, always complaining, always sad. Maybe you now understand that behind the criticism there was an abyss, an emotional void no amount of love could ever fill. Maybe you realize it was never about you. It never was. Schopenhauer said that suffering is the essence of life, and as harsh as that view may seem, it invites us to stop resisting pain and start understanding it. The unhappy woman in this context isn't a villain. She's a mirror, a reflection of what happens when we abandon responsibility for our own soul and begin to demand from others what can only come from within. You no longer need to feel guilty for not being able to heal her. You're not here to complete anyone. You're here to share your journey. And that's only possible with someone willing to walk on their own 2 feet. Happiness, like love itself, is an inner task, and no one can do that work for us. If she's not ready, you can't drag her. And if you're not willing to let go, you'll be pulled into the same emptiness. May this conversation have opened small cracks of clarity within you. May it have lit that quiet light, the one that whispers, I deserve peace. I deserve truth. I deserve reciprocity, and above all, may you never again confuse your worth with someone else's pain. You know, there was a time when I also tried to save someone. She was intense, brilliant, magnetic. She had that kind of presence that makes you believe you've just witnessed a miracle. And I slowly began to fade away. Every gesture of mine was judged, every silence interpreted as guilt. I thought that if I could just make her happy, everything would finally fall into place. But the truth is, I was trying to light a candle in the middle of a storm that wasn't mine. It was only when I stopped trying to fix things that I finally understood. Some pains are homes, some sorrows are unconscious choices, and no one, no matter how much love they have, can save someone who doesn't want to leave their own prison. If you've made it this far, thank you, truly, for listening until the end, even when some parts hurt, for allowing this conversation to pass through your thoughts, your emotions, your memories. This space we've created here isn't about blame. It's about seeing, with more clarity, more courage, more lucidity. You could be watching a video about melted cheese recipes or some awkward dance, but you chose to be here. That says a lot about your hunger for depth, and I respect that. Now, before the algorithm throws me into oblivion for speaking too many truths, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Click the button, it's free, and they say it helps cure the unhappy woman syndrome, or at least improves the creator's mood. Like the video, if any line hit you or hugged you, drop a comment below. Have you ever lived something like this? Ever tried to save someone who didn't want to be saved, and those videos showing up on your screen right now? Look, I won't spoil it for you, but one of them might make you question everything you think you know about love. The other could be even worse. Click and find out. I'll see you in the next deep dive or in the next sleepless midnight.